Welcome back to CBS This Morning. As nationwide protests push for racial justice in this country, a federal appeals court is expected to rule any day now on whether to overturn a 44-year-old rape conviction. It happened in 1976. There were angry protests in Concord, North Carolina, after the conviction of a young black man. His name is Ronnie Long. He was accused of raping a white woman. Now lawyers for Ronnie Long, who accuse investigators of lying about evidence, are trying to right what they say is a wrongful conviction. Erin Moriarty spoke to Long and his attorney about the case. Erin, good morning. This sounds like a very, very upsetting and disturbing story.
This is a very tough story. Good morning, Gail. That young man is now 64, and he says he never had a chance at a fair trial in what was back then a mostly segregated community.
So now you tell me, you got a young black man in 1976 in front of a white judge for a sexual assault of a rich, wealthy white female. I mean, what kind of justice is that?
Ronnie Long was 20 years old in 1976 when he was arrested in Concord, North Carolina, for the rape of a 54-year-old widow, a white woman by the name of Sarah Bost.
They got the wrong man. Ronnie Long is absolutely innocent of this crime.
Jamie Lau is a professor at the Duke Law Innocence Project. He says Long, who had been a talented high school athlete, was facing a minor trespassing charge when cops asked the victim to come to court that day.
They dressed her in a disguise, brought her to the courtroom. She sat there for an hour and a half in the presence of Mr. Long without identifying him. When Long's name was called, she identified him as the person who assaulted her. And she later testified that she selected him because he looked most similar to her attacker of all the people who were present in the courtroom that day.
But the victim had originally described her attacker as a light-colored black man, which Long is clearly not. And while a shoe print found outside the victim's home had a similar tread, it could not be matched to shoes owned by Long. There was also clothing, including a black leather coat, found in Long's car that looked like what the rapist wore.
It was a ubiquitous piece of clothing for black males at the time, in part because the movie Shaft had come out a few years prior.
At trial, Long didn't take the stand, but several alibi witnesses testified to seeing him at the time of the rape.
Every moment of his day had been accounted for.
The all-white jury convicted Long of rape and burglary. He was given 2 life sentences.
I feel like somebody had hit me with a bat.
His older sister, Linda Smith, was there for the verdict.
Everything just fell down because I just knew I wasn't expecting that.
She wasn't the only one. Concord erupted.
Oh, my God. It was a terrible sight. They went crazy. They was breaking windows. They was turning over police cars. They was running out through the street.
Jamie, Ms. Boss went to her death believing that Ronnie Long was the man who attacked her. Could she have been that wrong?
She could have, and there's very clear examples of people believing with high levels of confidence that they have identified the right attacker, only to later be proven wrong.
And then, about 30 years after his conviction, Long's attorneys learned that investigators had tested more than a dozen pieces of evidence and had hidden the results.
That not only did they hide evidence, but then they took the stand while under oath and lied about the evidence.
Did the defense at trial know that there were 43 fingerprints found at the crime scene that didn't match Ronnie Long?
They did not.
Did the defense know that there had actually been a rape kit taken and evidence taken from the victim?
They did not.
Did the defense know that a hair that was found at the crime scene did not match Ronnie Long?
They did not.
My reaction was, oh, my brother's coming home now. They done found evidence, but they still ain't let him out.
Long's only child, Carlos Spears, was 3 when his dad went to prison. He's now 47.
I want the world to know that Cabarrus County locked up an innocent man, and they need to go ahead and give him justice.
But in May, at a federal appeals court, the North Carolina Attorney General's office argued that none of the evidence hidden at trial would have changed the verdict.
Christmas times, cookouts. We always miss Ronnie. Somebody's missing. It's just like a burden. You're carrying a burden all the time. It's really hard. You know, somebody's in prison for something he didn't do.
The North Carolina Attorney General's office declined to talk about this case because it's pending, but the Fourth Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals is expected to rule soon. In the meantime, Long's attorney is asking Governor Roy Cooper to commute Long's sentence and send him home. And one other little fact, one of the cops who worked this case actually went to federal prison himself for stealing checks out of the mail. Anthony?
43 fingerprints at the crime scene did not match Ronnie Long, Erin. Thank you very much.